For our next session, we are going to move to disrupting sectors, storytelling, skilling, rural empowerment to entrepreneurship. And for this particular session, I would like to invite Ronnie Screwvala, founder upGrad and Swades Foundation, and the man who gave a positive connotation to disruption. This session will be moderated by Mitesh Kothari, co-founder and chief creative officer, White Rivers Media.
Good afternoon. Really would like to keep this session a little bit more interactive. It's always nice and it picks up when everyone else participates, that we know what everyone else is thinking here. So with your liberty, I think we'll keep that also interactive.
I think what we'll also add is some questions in the middle, sprinkle them from the audience if that works for you.
Sounds really good, yeah. It also keeps everyone off their mobile phones and looking a little bit more up versus down. It's very difficult to talk to foreheads versus eyes. So if you want to talk about storytelling and making connect, it's always better to make eye contact than forehead contact. So,
all right. For the ones who don't know him, let me start there. Ideally, there should not be many people who would not know you, but still. And this is very personal. This is not even something we would take off in terms of his, public description. But I always feel that Ronnie has been someone who actually changed the way we saw or we experienced stories in India. Then, on a very personal level, I saw you changing education, how people are getting jobs. And then it went to the social sector where you actually changed it from the fact that it's not about just giving. It's about kind of how do you implement social change in a certain manner. And it also comes on the back of what he's doing with the social sector in his NGO called Swades. That's something that we'll talk about. Your journey as an entrepreneur, I feel, has been quite different, right? You've disrupted multiple sectors, which is quite interesting, right? We will talk about these sectors. But also, Ronnie, every time we've spoken, I've realized you're a very principle-first person. So the idea when I was thinking about this whole session was that you have a lot of people, you have a lot of youth, as we just spoke about in the last session also. How could they understand the genesis of things your way? And we've already spoken that there is no blueprint for an entrepreneur. Each has to go on their own journey. But someone who's seen multiple categories, multiple sectors, right? That's where I would want to do things. To start off, in a very quick fashion, what I'll do is, on my side, I've divided into 5 quick sections, right? First one is a creative curveball, because I know your sharp wit and I want to kind of ignite that, right? I think we'll go back to your innings in media, entrepreneurship. I want to stitch it with the silent revolution in the rural India and possibly move across to the macro picture of India, the 100 Viksit Bharat essentially that we've been speaking about, right? Time will always be short. I'll keep my questions sharp because I know you enjoy that sharp wit answers and contrarian views. So that
sounds good. As long as you don't ask me the cricket score, I'm good.
Right. And somebody asked this question and it really worked for me because every time I spoke to Ronnie, I realized that after achieving so much and wherever he is, he still knows about every industry, every category, every new development. I think we had a discussion about where Indian media is going and then suddenly we were talking about the sovereign AI last time that we spoke. So Ronnie, if you were 25 today, right? Now you're starting.
That's just a 5-year difference between what you asked me to imagine and what I am. Right? So that's okay.
I always told you
look at 5 years, no problem at all.
Right. 2 parts, right? So if you were 25 today, what is your worldview? And if there are 3 traits or advices you want to give people who are here today, right? In the college, in the education system, and they're going to go out into the world, then what would it be? It could be from any category, any sector that you feel like.
Yeah, maybe I'll start by being not the normal, where today I think everyone needs to stay curious, etc. I think today the world has changed a lot. My background was from a lower middle class family. So I think maybe the first virtue which I think has stood me the test of time for 30, 40 years is this sense of lack of entitlement. And I think today, whenever I talk to entrepreneurs, when I talk to professionals, when I talk to young people, my first interaction with them is about how important it is for us to actually drop our sense of entitlement. And I know people think of humility, people think of everything else, but actually I came from an environment where I didn't have that sense of entitlement because I came from a lower middle class home. When I finished my college and I wanted to be an entrepreneur, it was a shock for my parents. But 6 months after which they digested that, my father gave me one punchline and said, emotionally, we're with you, but if you fail, we can't financially bail you out. So that kind of flattens you and that kind of sets you in a very different level. So I would first say to everyone here, lower your sense of entitlement. It'll actually give you you'll run the marathon for the rest of your life because it'll just recalibrate you as a person in what you want to do. Keep your expectations high, but lower your sense of entitlement. I think the second one is whether we like it or not, we need to accept that we're in a very dynamic environment and it'll be only more dynamic. Now, I know people don't like the word change. Even in our organization, I've stopped using the word change and use the word dynamism because actually it means the same thing. But the fact of the matter is, whether you like it or not, today, industry, companies, organizations, even the top organizations who might be a little slower to react, or the startup, as soon as you get to a cup half full, you're recalibrating yourself. So accept the fact that you're going to be in a dynamic environment because a lot of people get phased by the element of saying, there's too much change going on. Can I look at change? I want a little bit more of an orderly existence because you'll only get yourself wrongly stressed about that. I think the third very critical one is it's very important for you to enjoy what you're doing. And I don't mean enjoy as in fun, just really, really enjoy and have a good sense of pride. Because again, there are no job guarantees. The risks of everything are going to be even higher and higher as we step out in the career. So the least you need to do is go with something that you totally, totally enjoy. Maybe the one more I would say is, we spend just too much of our time in a young age trying to live somebody else's life or trying to look at it from what will this one think or how will this one think, even what my parents will think, which is important, but it's not critical. But I think at that early stage, it's a complete waste of time for us to start building ourselves, our career, our options, our personality, whatever else, in view of how somebody else will look at you. And last, whether we like it or not, we do need to be very strong storytellers. You do need to make eye contact and you do need to be able to communicate. And communicate doesn't mean great elocution. Communicate means connect. You can connect in any way. You can connect with silence for all it cares. But really, today, you're not going to really succeed if you don't have the formula to have that little bit more of attention, be a little bit more front of line, a little bit more proactive in what you want to do. So I would say, in that 5-year difference, it's not very long. I can always go back and say pretty much the same thing.
Let's pick it up. Let's pick it up. You said be dynamic. You said love what you do. Now, going back to your...
Enjoy more than love. You know, I mean, sometimes you love it, sometimes you won't, but enjoy it for sure.
Yeah, fair enough, right? Yeah. So, your early stint with pioneering the industry came with UTV, right? But I always, felt that it was ahead of its time, so risk was very high. It could have gone wrong, but what you actually ended up doing is kind of work and make deals with some of the biggest media companies on the earth, right? So I believe Disney, Bloomberg,
News Corp and Fox.
News Corp, right? Now that was amazing, and that was the time for everyone else when he did that. All of us in media felt that he is at the top of the game of that industry, right? So we felt that you could be slating to do something even bigger in the same industry, but you did something completely different. Not that Ronnie just left the organizations, but you left that industry for a time being, right? And you switched to social engineering, you switched to investments, you switched to education, right? That's just a completely different piece, right? So the way I always looked at it, pioneered, constructed a deal, went back, restarted. Let's do it this way. You said creativity. That was one of the points. Be creative. In 5 minutes, maybe not 5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes. Tell us about your own story when it comes to in this regards. The way you have told us stories across televisions and movie theaters.
Yeah, no, look, I think for me it was a lot of serendipity. And I think that should relate to a lot of people's students here because it's not about my story. I think if I have to make the connect and hold everyone's attention, it's more about making that connect. So I think when I was in college, I took to theater, elocution, and dramatics. That serendipitously led me into media. right? It gave me that sense of self-conviction. It taught me collaborativeness. It taught me so many other things in that context. So I think when you say, there's always a very, very small sliver being before your time and being able to hold it out. Yeah. And there's two problems there. One is if you hold on to something wrong for a long period of time, it's only going to waste a lot of your time. So timing is everything. But at the same time, you're just about a little bit more before. So when you're really pioneering something and you think it's not before its time, it's about how long you stick it out. So I think it's nice in retrospect to be able to talk about the fact that it was a little bit before its time. It was before its time for almost 8 years. So for that 8 years, you can look at everything in an extremely challenging manner. But I think the success was not pioneering. The success was sticking it out. So I think that's the game, and I think that's the thought process that has to go through people's mind, that what's the cost at which I want to stick out on my self-conviction. And at the same time, I can tell you when I started a media company, I started Home Shopping Network in the country. And about 2 years, I realized this is not going to be good for the next 20 years. And it is before its time because we didn't have credit card penetration. There was no cash on delivery. In retrospect, if I had stuck with that, we'd have been bigger than Flipkart. But who cares about retrospect? You don't get a luxury or a license for hindsight. So I think how you stick it out is very, very critical and important. When we started it, again, my sense of lack of entitlement allowed me to look at building a business without the entitlement that I first needed funds to start a business, which is what today everyone thinks about. Oh, I can't start a business because I need funding. So I think that element there took us out. So the ability for us to stay the course for 8 years was because we didn't get funding in many ways, and because we needed to find a model and because we needed to innovate. And I think that stood out. So that later on, it was incredible because I think the learning we had first by partnering with Rupert Murdoch, and then me buying back shares from them and then reinvesting and having a partnership with Disney. And we wanted to start a business channel in India. And at that time, CNBC was there. And I really wanted something that had a brand name along with what we wanted to do. And so we went across and I wanted to connect with Michael Bloomberg. And it was impossible because after about 6 times, when I finally got the meeting with him, he just said, we don't license anything anywhere else in the world. And it took about a year and a half of, into inverted commas, just dropping in to the New York office saying, I'm in the city, whereas actually I was taking a morning flight and taking the evening flight back out to Mumbai, that actually got us to have that partnership. So I think you need that sense of self-conviction to be able to do that.
Very, very interesting. So, as we spoke about interactivity, either we could take a question right now, or my next question, because what you just started, I wanted to talk a little about entrepreneurship, right? Because we have people here who will be future entrepreneurs. I always feel it's a very wide word, right? You cannot put it together. But from our last few conversations, I know you have this 3F theory, first of all, which I'm not going to explain. You're supposed to explain. But also 3 important points, right? I want to get your opinion on timing in entrepreneurship, dovetailing into what you just told me in terms of holding it out. Secondly, very importantly, we feel back in India that one of the dreams is going global with our businesses, right? I mean, you've done it. We've always thought about it. But I know you have contrarian views around this, and that would be interesting to kind of actually put there. And the third is something which you said, and it has always stuck with me, is the value essentially versus wealth creation, right? Yeah. So, Oliver.
Yeah. What is the first one you said?
So I'm gonna go with timing.
Yeah, timing. Yeah, no.
But also your 3Fs.
I think for all of us in our careers, we're about the choices we make and the timing in which we exercise what we want to do. It's about the choices we make and it's the timing in what we necessarily want to do. And I think it boils down to that. So therefore, at that crossroad, which may be almost every hour, every day, every week, every month, every year, or every 4 years, you're making choices. And that's actually either going to have you the opportunity or the consequence. In the same element, for me, timing is very, very critical. And it's not something you wake up in the morning and have a gut feeling about. It's something that you really need to develop with a lot of failures, a lot of setbacks. So as I said, the timing for us staying the course in media was important. The timing of when to exit was actually important. When to start something else and partner with somebody was important. When to call it a day because it was too early was important. So I think timing is definitely critical. The second one?
Second, I wanted you the global ambition versus looking at India itself.
Yeah, I think spent the whole day today talking about how, and the morning sessions were about how actually companies should get global. And I think it's a tricky world today. And I think you need to be, if our ambitions go ahead of us, we actually get orphaned. So I would be very cautious where everyone starts by having these sort of global ambitions, because actually your core is where you'll create the maximum amount of impact of what you want to do and have the maximum amount of success. Once you have enormous success and you have some spare cash or spare opportunities, that's the time to look at geography. But today the world is complicated. Now, you can also argue that technology is a leveler, and therefore whatever I can do, I can find my audience anywhere in the world. But actually that's not true, because the consumer in every country is very, very different. The price tag and ARPU in every country is very, very different. How people accept that technology and how quickly that change is very, very important. And at that level, when you're a founder, just having branch managers doesn't necessarily work. So I would just I have a contrarian view of this constant push where everyone feels we need to build global organizations. You do, but you don't also. And true value comes in each country. The US is different because most of them, they feel outside of their country, they can dominate and be syndication markets or helicopter land products in 160 countries. But for most other places, actually you create a lot more impact when you're focused on your home markets. And yeah, I think that kind of gives me the segue, because I think actual value creation can happen big time if you have a lot more focus. And you've seen that. I can talk about 10 cases where actually people have looked at one or two items. We've got our top groups in India. Most of them, if you look at Reliance, for example, which could be higher market cap, but when they look at it, they're mostly operating in an India market very seriously. So I think when you look at the global market and when you look at that, value creation is important. And again, this brings back to everyone looking at funding, right? Because I think yesterday, in fact, this morning on the train ride here, Forbes magazine called me and said, there's a rule now that actually says founders can get a little bit more ESOP before an IPO. So what are your views? And I said, my views is they shouldn't. Because the simple reason is that actually it's contrarian. Because just imagine, I'm a founder, I own 100% of the company. Okay, then I decided to go out and raise a lot of capital, and I diluted myself. So either I have to be responsible when I raise that capital, or that capital has been used very well, in which case it'll reflect in the high value of the company when I go out and be public. Either which way, to then give me a lollipop or give. And I'm not from the investor side, I'm a founder, but I'm saying to then get a lollipop and say, you didn't use your capital well, but you know what, you're taking the company public, and here's some ESOP, doesn't make any sense. So I'm just giving you that element as an example of why most of us get into business thinking we're going to create wealth. But our first responsibility is to create value, because only then can we create wealth, because value is for the group and wealth is individual.
Very interesting. I think it's also between how you look at the business from a short-term narrative and a long-term, legacy that could be built over a period of time. But let's go back, because I know it's very important to you and it's very important to what we've also been doing. When you said look inwards first, and let's look at rural India. For anyone of you who does not know, Swades is a foundation that Ronnie runs, right? It also is named on the iconic movie that you happen to kind of give to us as a country. It was really a gift, honestly.
It was at the time at which we released it, it was before its time.
I think thank you
for giving us that gift. 15 years back when we released it, we got no such applause. I want to just tell you that. It was before its time, and now it's become a little bit of a treasure, but yes.
Very, very interesting. Yeah. So, now when we speak about India moving from number 4 to number 3, economy, things like that, obviously it's very clear that the rural side of the country also has to move in. Also, I think international conglomerates look at rural India as a large consumer set piece, right? But now, being locally out there and doing the kind of projects that you're doing on the ground level with infrastructure, with so many other things, right? What is your soft view about what is happening really at this point of time in India?
See, I think aspiration levels have changed a lot in rural India, which is fantastic, but it's also a little bit troubling in the sense is if you don't meet those aspirations. For example, I was talking to somebody in the education ministry and we said, look, why don't we start a digital university? And I think one of their concerns was, but look, if we skill too many people and we can't give them jobs, I'm a little concerned. And it's a real concern. So if you look at that element there, for us, it's not about physical poverty. I think I've learned in the 20 years of working in rural India as a not-for-profit that it's the mental poverty that we need to solve. So if you could raise aspiration levels, you can change many things. So I know Mr. Forbes in this earlier in the pre-lunch session talked about how that 60% we have to urbanize them. And I think at this point I don't share that confident view because I think that's geography, right? Moving people from rural India to urban India is not going to happen because our urbanization rate is just not going to be at that rate. We're not going to be able to meet that deadline in 25 years. And if we push people and we get that wrong, we can actually be set back 25 years. So it's a very, very, very important choice and crossroad that India has to make in many parts. And therefore, I think empowering people. So today I say we skill about 60,000 rural people every year in our Swades Foundation. 5 years back, they used to all be carpenters, electricians, masons. Today, 50% of them want to take on hospitality. Wow. So that's the change in aspiration. And 5 years back, again, everyone wanted a job. Today, when we want to train them, they said, don't worry, we'll get self-employed. So that's the transition that's happening, and it's a good, healthy transition that's happening. Because if you're looking at sectors where infrastructure is coming up, highways are coming up, you can think hospitality, you think you're going to be self-employed, people are in the mode to find solutions for themselves. Because at the same time, I can tell you, I mean, when I get low and depressed, the two things I do, I ask either people at upGrad, can you set up a webinar for me on the weekend? And I talk to 800, 900 students of ours and our alumni, and I get charged again, literally. Right? I mean, some people go to the movies, some people play golf. I do a webinar, or if I do that necessarily, with our rural community and some of our skilling youth, it really, really charges you up as to how empty the cup is and how far we all need to go to what we want to do. Just to add there, this is the foundation that one started when I was 23, 24. So when we started the company, we started that. At that time, it wasn't called Swades because we hadn't made the movie then. It was called Share at that particular point in time. But the reason I'm saying that today is that I think the balance for us to have a DNA to give back has to come from a very early stage. You don't need a bank balance. You don't need white hair. You don't need to have... Philanthropy is a very evolved word. I think it's a 20th century word. We have to recoin that word anyway. It's a little bit of a dinosaur word because it just is very, very onerous. So I think today that's going to be part of do you really have that sense of joy in what you want to do and that sense of pride? I think the balance of anything that we do with a little bit of impact and giving back, you can actually do it concurrently. And I think I did that at that particular point. My first board of directors with external investors, they asked me, listen, there's this thing in the Articles of Association that says you're going to donate 10%. What about the years in which we won't make money? And we said, we'll figure it out. We're entrepreneurs, we'll figure it out in that context. But I think that element and that conviction today, especially in a country like India, but in most countries, it's very important.
So I'll tell you what, Ronnie, because recently we were doing this Gen Z research and we decided this time the Indian Gen Z research piece that we're doing, we're not going to do it actually in the metros.
Yeah.
We're going to go down tier 3, everything. And we actually saw firsthand some of the things that Swades was doing. And it's mind-blowing. Like how you just said that, right? From a carpenter or a mason to all the way across to hospitality is a massive change. And we're seeing that change in front of our eyes, right? Maybe sometimes that change is not visible from outside. I remember picking up a meeting with this social network called Discord other day. And when I told them about where is India and how Discord is used in India, it was an eye-opener for them, right? And that view is not there. But let's go back because I think we will try to fit it in time. I want to finish my...
It's 5 seconds?
Yes. Then we can just only move to the audience question because I want...
Are we getting a 5-minute grace?
I am the biggest fan, so I have your back. So I'm just considering because you want to do Q&A,
Yeah.
and I'm going to interject. And if you want to do Q&A, because we are literally pressing against.
You got the nudge.
Yeah.
So I think we can move to Q&A. We've covered most of things.
Yes,
that
please, absolutely, sure.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'll let you only choose. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll choose the ladies right here, both of them, one after the other.
Thank you.
To start with, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, but this is a very compact hall. You don't need a mic, but go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you for all the work you do, specifically in education. That's the sector I work in. You do work in rural India and on edtech, and now you have Atlas Skill Tech University as well. In your view, what role can traditional education institutions, for example, whether they're public or private universities or the foreign campuses coming into India, do to address the issue you mentioned? We have education growing in various ways, but are there enough jobs? Can education play a part in addressing that challenge? Should we work with industry, or is it entirely incumbent on industry, or is it about policy?
So look, there are almost three questions in that question, and I want to break that up because I know for you it's one question, but for me it's three different questions, right? I think one is there is curriculum and formal education, which frankly, you've seen the visuals where automobiles have changed in 100 years and technology has changed in 100 years, but the classroom hasn't changed. And there's a good reason for that. There is some innovation happening there, but the curriculum is one that is not easy to disrupt. So in that formal education space, till you are in your college, there is a certain element and a relevance of that. What I think needs to be injected in that system is the ability for us to have soft skills and many other skills to make us more job ready. And this is, look, we're all blessed here to be in one of the premier institutions in the world, but if you take off that context and go to the 9,000 others or 90,000 others, you won't find that. So that element of pushing that and augmented learning inside formal learning is very, very critical and important. And I think online can help on that. I think the concept of foreign universities in India, personally, I think it's a fad. I think people who want to go abroad will go abroad for the right reasons. I think today in India, the sentiment is very strong that and there's nothing wrong. We're 1.4 billion people. We do need an external exposure. I wanted to ask the gentleman from ISRO who did a fantastic presentation in the morning, but he said, it's my first visit to the United Kingdom. And I said, but you're running a global organization. That's what went in my mind. That my first question I want to ask him is, it's quite mind-blowing because all you need to do is global collaboration in space, and yet you haven't come to the United Kingdom. How do you kind of do that? So I think where people want to go, today they want to come back to the lands of opportunities, as the case may be, lands of less controversy, lands of strong family values, whatever else. And that would be my sort of second one. And look, let's face the reality. Jobs today is going to be a challenge, but it's a challenge everywhere else in the world also. It is an India problem because of the demographic that we have. And I think entrepreneurship will help it to a certain extent. We are under-indexed on our small and medium-scale industry. Today we've spoken the whole day about going global and blah and blue, but we've not really talked about the heartland, the middle of the pyramid that really talks about India, which is the small and medium-scale industry. And they can empower a lot of jobs. But the problem is we're not empowering them because the media evangelizes unicorns, but then you can only have 100 unicorns. You can't have 1 million unicorns. So they evangelize it in the slightly wrong manner. So I think self-employment is going to be the way people will go, and we need to nudge people in that direction. And I don't think it's the government's job to create that kind of employment because they can't. Their role is to be a facilitator and a catalyst, create large opportunities, build large infrastructure, do a lot of public spending so that you can create a certain amount of jobs. And then get out of the way so private enterprise can create and mushroom in a big way.
With your permission. Thank you so much, Ronnie, for always speaking the truth. Honestly, my biggest takeaway from today as an entrepreneur is drop your
That's
sense
you're saying
of
because there's too much fake news going around the place.
drop your sense of entitlement and you'll go a long way.
Yeah, but this is the India forum, it's not the US forum, so it's fine. So we'll always speak the truth.
But my question to you is, of course, I would not say content, but in this day and age of AI, I always come from the school of thought that the value of human storytelling will actually go up. What do you think? What is the value of storytelling, and how much will creativity get replaced if it can in this?
See, I think we link storytelling with a sense of either a scripted drama or a movie. And actually storytelling is just 5% of that. It's 95% because each of us have a story to tell. You have a story to tell, right? And I think what the social media is able to do is sort of democratize that. So I think the element of storytelling today has actually grown substantially. If you see the level of OTT platforms that have come in today, the level of scripting and storytelling there has gone to the next level. And today, you're not watching binge watching for stories as much as you're watching for characters. You're falling in love with characters more than even a story today. And that's the element of binge watching, which a few people have discovered and actually been able to do a lot of work on. But I think AI will always be a prompt. When you're creating something out of nothing, you'd love to have a prompt. But if you use that as the end result, I don't think it's going to go very far. So I think it's one more wave, or what I would say the wind beneath the wings that can happen, or a little bit of the tailwind that will happen, that will challenge people that says, I can't have a block. I can't stop here. I've got multiple platforms. I have a story to tell. Let me see how bright that story is. So I think, yeah, we're in a phenomenal place, but we can't get intimidated by all the things that are going on.
100%. Thank you so much.
No, you pick now. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sure. Sorry. Hey, you can go next. Yep. I think they want you to have the mic.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
And you.
As you clearly said, the Swades was ahead of its time, and a lot of people like me who have...
The movie was, our foundation is not.
No,
but
the
yeah.
foundation, I totally agree with you. So my question is, a lot of us who move out of India for the job, for the studies, different purposes. What is the one thing which you encourage? Because a lot of people stuck and in the time has frozen for us. We wanted to come back. We want to make a change. We want to be part of lot of good causes which you are running, of course. What is the one thing which we can risk and which we can try to come, and what we can contribute more? What is word of advice you would like to give us the people?
So I get it right? Because it's quite a sensitive question that you ask. You're saying, what will it take me to come back to India? Or you
No,
just
the
say
courage
you
and-
want to stay in your comfortable environment, but want to, as a post office, do some good? Which
No,
one?
I want to take a risk. I want to come back and make a change.
And you can straddle that. It's okay. You can straddle that. But let me answer the question once I understand the question.
Yeah, my question is, the risk factor is there. A lot of things as world has evolved.
Yes.
People want to move, but a lot of things scare
Follow
them
your
off.
heart. You follow your heart as far as that is concerned. If you're restless about something,
Yeah,
the only thing I would say is the grass is not greener on the other side. It never is.
That's true.
So if you're going for greener grass, then make your grass green.
Yeah.
But if you believe that there's something you're missing out on, and there's a tug, there's a pull, that's more than just family or parents or
Yeah.
whatever else, because that'll be temporary. It'll be strong,
Yeah.
but it'll be temporary. There are opportunities. But let's face it, it will be difficult. It's a change in environment. I mean, everyone keeps talking about ease of doing business. And I keep telling a lot of entrepreneurs who complain and bitch about being ease of doing business. I'm saying, guys, that's your competitive edge. Because go to the United States, you'll be highly competitive. You'll be out in 10 days. At least here you've got a moat that is difficult for other people to come and do business in your territory. So you'll be doing business well. And that is the reality. So you'll have to make your choices.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just one last question, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Ronnie. I'm Swati. I had the undergrad programs for Masters Union. We are a small new age business school based out of Gurugram. And I've seen that in the last 5 years, India has had a lot of these new age startup colleges, offline models that have come up, whether it's Scaler, Mesa, a lot of them others. In a world where skills are more important than degrees, my question number one is, do you see IITs and IIMs losing their shine over the next decade? And second, do you think VC-funded models can actually take over the government institutes without the government support?
No, I think if I were to just be sharp, because that's where we need to be, I think there's a place to coexist, because there's no shine that needs to be taken out of our institutions that have been around for a long time. Because besides, the demographic is very different sometimes. It's very aspirational. The IIMs have built institutions, IITs have built legacies of institutions, so you can't really replace them. And I think we shouldn't. It's about the and, because there's a certain level of people who will want to understand and do an MBA with a different twist or a different turn. And that's the beauty about being a working professional. You can have a choice. So I think the normal new organization should multiply the choice of being forever learners, because that's what we all need to be, but not try to replace anyone there. That's my bottom line on that.
Perfect. I think we close it. Thank you for reminding us that the only way